I've always been the responsible one in our family even though I'm the younger sister. I 35F work as a marketing assistant at a mid-sized firm in the city. It doesn't pay amazingly well, but it's enough to cover my expenses and help out my sister Jessica 31F. Jessica is a widow with 2 boys, Tyler 8M and Mason 6M. Her husband Greg died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving her to raise the kids alone. I felt terrible when it happened, so I immediately offered to help. Our parents, Bob and Linda 60s, live about 20 minutes away from both of us. They've always favored Jessica. Mom always said Jessica needed more attention because she was sensitive. After Greg died, Jessica struggled to afford her apartment, so I started paying half her rent $675 per month and a portion of her utilities. It's tight on my budget, but I figured family helps family. Amy could pay the whole rent if she wanted to, Jessica said loudly at Sunday dinner last week. It's not like she has kids to support. I nearly choked on my food. Jessica, I'm already stretching my budget as it is. Mom shook her head. Amy, your sister is struggling. You could cut back on those fancy coffee drinks. What fancy coffee drinks? I brew coffee at home to save money. Dad chimed in, your sister needs more help. Family comes first. This conversation happened almost weekly. No matter what I did, it was never enough. Meanwhile, Jessica spent money on new clothes and salon appointments while I pinched pennies. The worst part was how Jessica handled her kids. Tyler and Mason were sweet boys at heart, but they had no discipline. Jessica was always on her phone, barely paying attention to them. When she needed me time, which was often, she'd drop them at my apartment with barely any notice. Last Thursday was the breaking point. I had a pounding headache after a stressful day at work. Just as I sat down to finish some urgent revisions, my doorbell rang. Emergency girls' night, Jessica announced. Tyler and Mason pushed past me into my apartment. The boys already had dinner. I'll pick them up around midnight. Thanks, sis. She was gone before I could object. I turned to my nephews, who were already jumping on my couch. Guys, please stop that. I need to work tonight, and I have a headache. We want to play games on your laptop. Tyler shouted, ignoring me. No, I need it for work. You can watch TV quietly. This set off a round of whining that escalated to screaming. Mason grabbed my laptop while Tyler tried to wrestle it away from him. I saw red. Enough. I shouted, snatching my laptop back. Both of you go sit in opposite corners right now. If you can't behave, I won't pay for your internet next month. Their eyes widened in horror. Suddenly, they were perfectly capable of following directions. After 15 minutes, I let them watch a movie, and I managed to finish my work. When Jessica finally came at 1 a.m. and not midnight, they immediately started complaining. Aunt Amy was mean to us, Tyler said. She made us sit in corners, Mason added. She said she wouldn't pay our internet, Tyler finished. Jessica's face darkened. You did what to my children? They were fighting over my laptop. I needed to work. How dare you discipline my kids? You have no right. You think paying some bills gives you the right to abuse my children? I was stunned. Abuse? Jessica, they were out of control. I don't want to hear it. She stormed out, slamming my door. My phone rang 20 minutes later. It was Mom telling me how disappointed she was in me. As I lay in bed that night, I wondered when I had become the family villain simply for having boundaries. 3 days later, Jessica called me with exciting news. She'd met someone named Ryan at her yoga class. I was genuinely happy for her. Maybe having someone new in her life would take some pressure off me. Over the next 2 months, Jessica's relationship with Ryan became the center of her universe. But my happiness faded when I realized what her new relationship meant for me, even more babysitting. Can you take the boys tonight? Ryan's taking me to that new Italian place, Jessica asked one Tuesday. It was the 3rd time that week. I don't know, Jessica. I've got a big presentation tomorrow. Please? It'll just be a few hours. They'll be good, I promise. They weren't good. They never were. But I agreed because saying no meant guilt trips from her and my parents. It became a pattern. Jessica would drop off the boys with little notice, promising to be back early, then return hours later. The boys' behavior worsened with each visit. One night they spilled grape juice on my white sofa. Another time they broke a ceramic bowl my grandmother had given me. After 8 weeks, I was exhausted. My work was suffering, my apartment was a mess, and I had no social life. Something had to change. Sunday dinner at my parents' house seemed like a good opportunity to address the situation. Jessica was in an excellent mood, having just returned from a weekend getaway with Ryan. The boys were running around the backyard while we sat at the patio table. Jessica, I said carefully, I'm happy things are going well with Ryan. But I need to talk about the babysitting situation. My sister's smile faltered. What about it? It's become really frequent, and usually without notice. I work full-time too, and I need some evenings to myself. Maybe we could set up a schedule or find another babysitter sometimes. Jessica's face hardened. You're just being selfish. You don't want to spend time with your nephews. That's not what I said. You're jealous that I found someone and you're still single. That's what this is really about. I looked at my parents, expecting them to intervene. Instead, Mom nodded in agreement. Amy, your sister finally has a chance at happiness again. Can't you put your needs aside for once? Mom said with that disappointed tone I knew too well. Dad crossed his arms. Family helps family. Period. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Are you serious? I've been helping for years. I pay half her rent, part of her bills, and I've watched the boys constantly. I just need some balance. Balance? Jessica scoffed. Try raising 2 kids alone. Oh wait, you can't even manage to find a date. That was the final straw. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the deck. I'm done. Find someone else to be your free babysitter. I quit. I walked out, ignoring Jessica's screams and my mother's calls to come back. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders, despite the anger burning in my chest. 2 days later, Jessica showed up at my door with the boys in tow. They looked tired and cranky. I have a date with Ryan. It's important, she said, trying to push past me. No, I said, blocking the doorway. I told you I'm done babysitting. Her face contorted with rage. You can't be serious. The boys are already here. Where are they supposed to go? That's for you to figure out. You're their mother. She tried to push past me, but I held firm. You're trying to ruin my relationship, she shouted. You want me to be alone forever like you. I closed the door in her face and locked it. I could hear her pounding and yelling, but I turned up my TV and ignored it. Eventually, she left. The phone calls started that evening. First Jessica, then Mom, then Dad. I let them all go to voicemail. My mother's message was particularly harsh. You're driving yourself out of this family, Amy. Prepare for the consequences. Despite our fight, I continued sending money for Jessica's rent and bills. It felt like the last thread connecting me to my family, and I wasn't ready to cut it completely. Weeks passed. The calls gradually stopped. I focused on work, started a yoga class, and even went on a few dates. For the first time in years, I was putting myself first. Then after nearly 3 months of silence, my phone lit up with a text from Mom, family dinner tomorrow night at Carmen's, 7 p.m. Jessica has news. Please come. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe enough time had passed for things to cool down. I texted back a simple okay, and spent the next day anxious about what awaited me. When I arrived at the restaurant, everyone was already seated, Mom, Dad, Jessica, Tyler and Mason running around the tables, and a tall man with dark hair who I assumed was Ryan. He stood and extended his hand when I approached. You must be Amy. I've heard so much about you, he said with a warm smile. I doubted anything he'd heard was positive, but I smiled back. Nice to meet you, Ryan. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Ryan seemed normal, even occasionally shooting disapproving glances at the boys when they acted up. Jessica was practically glowing, holding Ryan's hand on top of the table. After we ordered our food, Jessica cleared her throat dramatically. I have something important to share with everyone, she announced. Ryan and I are getting married. My parents erupted in cheers. Dad clapped Ryan on the back while Mom wiped away tears. Congratulations, I said, genuinely happy for her. When's the big day? 4 months from now, Ryan answered. We found a perfect venue with a cancellation. That's wonderful news, I said. I'm really happy for both of you. Jessica's smile suddenly hardened. There's something else you should know, Amy. The tone of her voice made my stomach clench. The wedding will be small. Family only. And I decided not to invite you. The table fell silent. I felt like I'd been slapped. What? You heard me. This wedding is for people who act like family. You made it clear where you stand when you refused to help with my children. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to say something, to defend me. Mom looked down at her plate. Dad shook his head. Your sister's right, Amy, Dad said. You brought this on yourself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 3 years of financial support, countless hours of babysitting, and all the emotional labor I'd put into helping Jessica meant nothing because I'd finally set a boundary. I didn't say another word. I simply gathered my purse, placed some cash on the table for my meal, and walked out. No one called after me. That night, I blocked all their numbers and removed them from my social media. But I couldn't bring myself to stop the automatic transfer that paid Jessica's rent. Life went on. I built a life that didn't revolve around my sister's needs. From time to time, I checked Jessica's social media. She posted regular updates about wedding preparations. Not once did she reach out to me. Neither did my parents. 4 months passed quickly. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday, and I was planning a quiet weekend at home with takeout and Netflix. Michael had invited me to a concert, but I declined. As much as I tried to pretend otherwise, I knew I'd be thinking about the wedding all day. Friday evening, I was making dinner when someone knocked on my door. I peeked through the peephole. To my shock, Jessica was standing in the hallway. I hesitated before opening the door. Jessica, what are you doing here? She pushed past me into the apartment. We need to talk. She looked stressed. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual perfect blowout. What's going on? I asked, crossing my arms. The wedding's tomorrow. Shouldn't you be at a rehearsal dinner or something? That's exactly what I want to talk about. She sat on my couch without being invited. I need you to watch the boys during the wedding tomorrow. I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. You want me to babysit tomorrow? When you've specifically uninvited me from your wedding? Look, they can't come to the ceremony. They'll ruin everything. Tyler interrupts constantly, and Mason broke a vase at the venue during our last visit. So hire a babysitter. I tried. 2 different ones canceled on me. Besides, your family. You should help. I laughed in disbelief. Jessica, you literally told me I wasn't family enough to attend your wedding. You can't have it both ways. You're blowing that whole thing out of proportion, she waved dismissively. I was upset, okay? But this is important. If you don't help me, I'll have to bring them to the wedding, and they'll cause a scene. That sounds like a parenting problem, not an Amy problem. Her face hardened. Fine. If you won't do it for me, do it because Mom and Dad want you to. They'll be really disappointed if you refuse. Mom and Dad haven't spoken to me in 4 months. They didn't even call on my birthday. If you don't agree, I'll tell them how selfish you're being. Again. You know they'll take my side. She smirked, confident in her leverage. I felt a familiar anger rising in my chest, but this time I didn't let it show. Instead, I forced a neutral expression. What time should I expect them? I asked. Jessica's face lit up with victory. The ceremony starts at 11 a.m., so I'll drop them off around 9:30. We should be done with everything by 8 p.m. I'll text you if we're running late. Sure, I said flatly. She stood up, suddenly cheerful. I knew you'd come through, sis. This means a lot to me. After she left, I didn't waste any time. I called my boss, Mark, and asked for an urgent vacation day. After he agreed, I immediately opened my laptop. Within an hour, I had booked a 10-day stay at a beachfront resort in Hawaii, with a flight leaving at 6 a.m. the next morning. I'd always wanted to go to Hawaii but had never been able to afford it, partly because I was too busy supporting Jessica. The irony wasn't lost on me. I packed quickly, setting an alarm for 3 a.m. to catch a taxi to the airport. As I zipped up my suitcase, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was guilt, of course. I'd been conditioned my whole life to put Jessica's needs first. But underneath that was something else: excitement, freedom, and a delicious sense of finally standing up for myself. By sunrise, I was on a plane heading west. Celebrating something, the flight attendant asked as she handed me a mimosa. I took a sip and looked out the window at the clouds below. Yes, I said. My independence. Update 1, Hawaii was paradise. I spent my days swimming, napping in hammocks, and enjoying cocktails. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. I kept my phone off the first day, knowing what I'd find. Jessica would have arrived at my apartment at 9:30 a.m. with the boys, then gradually panicked when I wasn't there. The next morning over breakfast on my balcony, I turned on my phone. Notifications flooded in immediately. 12 missed calls from Jessica, 8 from Mom, 5 from Dad. Dozens of angry texts. From Jessica at 9:45 a.m., where are you? We've been knocking for 15 minutes. From Jessica at 10:03 a.m., this isn't funny. I'm going to be late. From Jessica at 10:37 a.m., I can't believe you would do this on my wedding day. From Mom at 11:22 a.m., your sister is in tears. Is this how you want things to be? From Jessica at 12:15 p.m., you've ruined my wedding. The boys are out of control and Ryan's family thinks I'm a terrible mother. From Dad at 2:30 p.m., this is beyond disappointing, Amy. You've gone too far. The final text from Jessica at 8:46 p.m., you've crossed every line. Don't contact us again. You're not family anymore. I should have felt devastated, but instead I felt liberated. They had cut me off, not the other way around. I canceled Jessica's rent transfer and went swimming. Later that day, my cousin Rachel called. She'd been living abroad and wasn't involved in our drama. Amy? Are you okay? I heard about the wedding chaos. That's an understatement, Rachel said. Jessica had to bring the boys since you weren't there. Your parents couldn't handle them during the ceremony. Tyler knocked over a flower arrangement during the vows, and Mason kept asking loudly when they could have cake. I tried not to smile. During the reception, they ran around screaming. The worst part was when they played with the cake before it was cut. They stuck their hands in it and started a food fight. Ryan's mother nearly fainted. Oh my God, I gasped, half horrified, half amused. Ryan's aunt said, perhaps you rushed into this marriage. The room went silent. Jessica blames you for everything, of course. Of course. It couldn't possibly be that her kids need discipline, or that she should have hired a proper babysitter. Exactly. I think you did the right thing. They've taken advantage of you for years. I enjoyed the rest of my vacation completely. Snorkeling, helicopter tours, hula dancing, fresh pineapple every day. By the time I flew home, I was tanned, rested, and at peace. There were no messages from my family. The silence stung a little. 3 weeks passed. I threw myself into work, and my boss noticed. He called me into his office. Amy, I've been impressed with your performance lately. I'd like to offer you a promotion to senior marketing strategist. I was stunned. Thank you, Mark. It comes with a 15% raise and your own office. You've earned it. With my new salary, I found a nicer apartment in a building with a gym and rooftop garden. Moving day was bittersweet. I was excited but missed having family to celebrate with. Then Rachel called again. Hey, cousin. I've got some family gossip. What's happening with Jessica? Despite everything, I still cared. She and Ryan are fighting constantly about the boys. He wasn't prepared for how challenging they are, and Jessica isn't addressing their behavior. She's dumping them with your parents every weekend so she and Ryan can work on their marriage. That's not solving the real problem. The boys need consistent boundaries. Exactly. Your mom is exhausted, and your dad threw out his back trying to stop Mason from climbing a bookshelf. Part of me felt vindicated, but mostly I felt sad for Tyler and Mason. They were acting out because they lacked structure. Do you ever think about reconciling with them? Rachel asked. I considered the question. They'd have to acknowledge how they treated me, and I'm not sure they're capable of that. But I miss what our family could have been. I get it. Sometimes you have to put yourself first. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony with tea, watching the city lights. I thought about my sister, parents, and nephews I probably wouldn't see grow up. There was sadness, but no regret. I'd spent years being the family doormat. Breaking free was necessary for my well-being. Maybe someday they'd realize what they'd lost. Until then, I would continue building my life on my own terms. I had a job I loved, a beautiful home, good friends, and most importantly, I had myself, stronger and more confident than ever. I raised my teacup in a silent toast to the future, ready to face whatever came next. Update 2, it's been 6 months since my Hawaii trip. My career has taken off. I was promoted to senior marketing strategist with a 15% raise. My boss put me in charge of our largest account, and the client was so impressed with my presentation that they increased their budget by 30%. During the celebration dinner, my boss said, "None of this would have happened without Amy's dedication. She's the future of this company." After years of feeling undervalued by my family, it meant everything to be recognized. I've been dating Michael for 4 months now. He's kind, thoughtful, and respects my boundaries. Last weekend, we took a cooking class together. We were terrible at making pasta, but we laughed the entire time. It's refreshing to have someone who doesn't manipulate me emotionally. I've also made friends through yoga. We have brunch every Sunday. These friendships are based on mutual respect rather than obligation or guilt. As for my family, things have gotten interesting. Rachel has kept me updated on Jessica. Her marriage is in trouble. Ryan moved out 2 months ago, saying he needed space to think. According to Rachel, he was fed up with Jessica's refusal to discipline the boys and her demands for financial support. He told her he didn't sign up to be a parent to out-of-control children, Rachel reported. He loves her but can't live like this. Jessica has been leaning heavily on our parents, dropping the boys off nearly every day. Mom and Dad are exhausted but won't set boundaries. Dad's back problems have worsened, and Mom missed work several times from exhaustion. I received a text from Jessica, "I hope you're happy. My marriage is falling apart." I didn't respond. What could I say? 2 days later, Mom called. "Amy," she said, sounding tired. "How are you?" "I'm fine, Mom." "How are you?" "Not great. We're struggling with the boys. They are a handful." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "We could use some help," she finally said. "Maybe you could take them for a weekend?" I couldn't believe it. After months of silence, after being told I wasn't family, after being uninvited from the wedding, they wanted me to babysit? "I don't think that would be appropriate," I said. "Given that I'm not part of the family anymore." Mom sighed. Jessica was upset when she said that. That's exactly why I need boundaries. But we need help. I'm sorry you're struggling. But I can't pretend nothing happened and go back to being free childcare. So you won't help at all? If you and Jessica want an honest conversation about how I've been treated, I'm open to that. But I won't sweep everything under the rug. I don't see why we need to dredge up the past, Mom said. It's not the past if the same patterns continue now. The call ended there. A week later, Dad texted, "Mom and I would like to meet for coffee." Just us. No, Jessica. Saturday morning? I agreed. My parents looked older. Dad had more gray hair, and Mom had dark circles under her eyes. After small talk, Dad said, "We've been thinking about the family situation. We enabled unhealthy behaviors," he continued. "Especially with Jessica." Mom nodded. "The boys are out of control. We can't handle them." Ryan left because Jessica wouldn't set limits. "When you tried to set boundaries, we should have supported you," Dad said. "Instead, we made you feel wrong for not giving in to Jessica. I hadn't expected this from them." "We miss you," Mom said. "And we're sorry." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. "Thank you," I replied. "It means a lot." "Will you come to Sunday dinner again?" Dad asked. "We'll back you up if Jessica makes demands." "I'll come to dinner, but I'm not babysitting yet. I need to see real change first." They nodded. "What about Jessica?" I asked. "Has she acknowledged any responsibility?" They exchanged glances. "She's struggling," Mom said. "But she knows things need to change." I took that with a grain of salt. I'm having dinner with them tomorrow. I'm nervous but hopeful. I don't expect miracles, but maybe we can start building a healthier dynamic. I'll update you after. Wish me luck. Update 3. It's been 3 weeks since my last update. The family dinner was interesting. I arrived at my parents' house feeling nervous. Mom hugged me tentatively. Dad squeezed my shoulder. The house smelled like pot roast, my childhood favorite. Jessica arrived with the boys. She wasn't happy to see me, but Tyler and Mason ran straight to me. "Aunt Amy." Mason hugged my legs. "We missed you." That nearly broke my heart. Despite issues with Jessica, I'd missed the boys. "I missed you too," I said, ruffling his hair. Jessica nodded curtly. "Amy." "Jessica," I replied. Dinner was awkward. The boys dominated the conversation, telling me about school. Halfway through, Dad said, "Boys, go play in the den. The adults need to talk." Once they left, Jessica stared at her plate. "So you're back now?" "I'm here for dinner," I said. "That's a start." "They said you wanted to talk about how you've been treated," she said. "As if you're the victim." "Jessica, I understand you're going through a hard time. But we need to discuss what happened. You abandoned me when I needed you." "That's not what happened. I set a boundary after years of helping you. When I asked for consideration, you all made me feel selfish. And then you didn't show up for my wedding. You let my children ruin it. You uninvited me," I reminded her. "And then expected me to babysit." Mom intervened. "Girls, please. We're here to understand each other." Dad nodded. "Jessica, we've enabled some of your expectations of Amy. It wasn't fair. And Amy, while we understand your actions, they caused problems. It felt like they were suggesting equal blame when I'd spent years supporting Jessica." "I understand my actions had consequences," I said. "But I don't regret standing up for myself." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "My marriage is falling apart, and you're happy about it." "I'm not happy about it. But that's between you and Ryan. He says I don't discipline the boys enough. That I rely too much on others. He sounds like you. If multiple people are saying the same thing, might there be truth to it?" She glared. "You don't understand what it's like to be a single mother." "You're right. But I understand putting my needs aside for years to help someone who never acknowledges it." Silence fell. Finally, Jessica sighed. "I may have taken advantage sometimes. It wasn't much, but it was the closest to an admission I'd ever heard from her. And I could have communicated my boundaries better," I conceded. The evening remained strained but civil. Before leaving, Jessica surprised me. "Would you like to take the boys to the park sometime?" They miss you. I'd like that, I said. That outing happened last weekend. Jessica was polite but distant. The boys were excited and well behaved. We spent hours at the park, got ice cream, and talked. Are you and Mom fighting? Tyler asked. We had a disagreement, I said. But we're working on it. She cries a lot since Dad left, Mason said quietly. I know this is hard. But sometimes adults need space. It doesn't mean your dad doesn't love you. When I dropped them off, Jessica invited me in for coffee. They were good today, she said, surprised. They're good kids. They just need consistent boundaries. She stared into her mug. Ryan says the same. He wants to try counseling, marriage and family counseling. That's a great idea. It's hard to admit I might be doing something wrong, she whispered. It's not about being wrong, I said. It's about finding what works better. She looked up, eyes wet. I've been unfair to you, haven't I? It was the most self-awareness I'd ever seen from her. We've both made mistakes. I got used to you helping and started to expect it. Demand it. And I enabled that by rarely saying no. I'm sorry, Amy. For taking advantage. For uninviting you. For blaming you. Thank you, I said, feeling lighter. I'm sorry too. For not communicating earlier. For disappearing on your wedding day. We're not magically fixed. Years of unhealthy patterns don't change overnight. But it's a start. My own life continues to improve. I received another raise after landing 2 new clients. Michael and I are discussing moving in together. My yoga friends have become a solid support system. I'm having dinner at my parents' again this Sunday. Jessica, the boys, and Ryan will be there, they're trying to work things out. For the first time in my adult life, I feel like my family sees me and respects my boundaries. I'm no longer the doormat, but I haven't cut them off completely. Standing up for yourself isn't about winning or punishing others. It's about creating space for honest, healthy relationships. I'll always be there for my family, but now it's on my terms. And that makes all the difference.